Today probably be just one again, because we're going to talk about multiplying by polynomials. And so we are actually in a new lesson finally, 8.3. And so we're just going to talk about difference. Now, I'll be honest with you, tonight's homework, you have only a binomial times a binomial. So I'm just going to show you strategies how to do that, and then we'll expand it tomorrow to what if it's a trinomial and a binomial. How are we going to do that? But we just use the same process over and over again. So we're going to call this multiplying polynomials. And I'm going to write underneath binomials. I can spell today. So that's our focus. Oops. Oh, you hate it when that happens. There we go. So 4-6 is our date. All right, so we talked about two methods, multiplying a monomial times a polynomial. We said put the polynomial on top, the monomial on the bottom. We could do it vertically, or we could do it horizontally with the distribution. It's distribution both ways, but it's just a different way of setting up. So I'm going to go through those again. So we've got a horizontal method. Yep, and then one more I'm going to show you. So the horizontal method, I'm used to calling this distributing. Some people call it the rainbow method. Some people call this FOIL when it's a binomial times a binomial. I don't like using the word FOIL because FOIL is specific to two binomials. So FOIL only works in that unique situation. But the three strategies that we're going to talk about here can be used for any size polynomial times any size polynomial. So what I'm going to do is color code the first polynomial. And I'm going to make the 2x one color, and I'm going to make the positive 3 a second color. So in the horizontal method, what we're going to do is multiply the 2x by everything in the other polynomial first. So I'm going to multiply 2x times x, which gives me 2x squared. And then I'm going to multiply 2x times 5, which is going to give me 10x. Then I'm going to multiply everything in the second polynomial by the positive 3. So positive 3 times x is 3x, positive 3x, and positive 3 times 5 is positive 15. Now, some people call it, again, that's why they call it a double rainbow, because you got these kind of curvy things going on. I think that's silly. It's just distribution. So what we look for is any like terms. And if there are going to be like terms, they tend to be the two in the inside. So we have a 10x plus a 3x is a 13x, and we get a 15. So notice that we had two binomials, and because both binomials had the same exponents, we ended up with a trinomial in this particular case. Okay, so now we're getting an answer that looks different than what we started with. Whereas before, when we had a polynomial, we ended up getting the polynomial of the same length as our answer. Okay, vertical method. This is what the book calls vertical method. I call it columns. So just like column multiplication. So in this case, again, I would put the longer one on top. Oh, let's do it this other way. But in this case, there is no longer one. They're both the same length. But in the event that they are different lengths, put the longer one on top. And again, I'll color code. And I'll have 2x plus 3. Now, it doesn't matter which one goes on top and which one goes on the bottom when they're the same size, but I just wanted to keep it the same as what we were doing on the last one. So just like with column multiplication, like with a two-digit number times a two-digit number, we start with the ones digit and we multiply everything on top by the ones digit. So I start by multiplying the 3 times the 5, and that gives me positive 15. And then I multiply the 3 times the x, that gives me a positive 3x. Now, just like I did in column multiplication, now I'm going to multiply everything by the tens digit, but I go back to the ones column. So it's 2x times 5 is 10x. And what I do is I line up like terms when I'm doing my column multiplication. That way it's going to make the math easier when I have to add, or if I have to add. And then I have 2x times x gives me 2x squared. So then I just add. And remember, there's no carrying, but there may be combining like terms. And we get the same exact answer, 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. Okay? So again, those should look familiar. What makes them a little different is it wasn't just one round of multiplying. It's now two because it was a binomial with two terms that I had to multiply by. So let's talk about the third one. Now, I'm going to give you its official name, which is called the area model. And I like to call it the matrix. Okay. Now, you're going to see matrices when you're in your Algebra 2 class, Algebra 2 trig, so it's going to be some familiarity, a little bit different. So again, here's our original problem, is the, where are we? 2x plus 3 times the x plus 5. So what I do is I figure out if I was going to create a box, I'm going to figure out how many terms I have in each of my polynomials. So I have 2 terms here, I have 2 terms here. So what I'm going to do is create a 2 by 2 box. Okay. So I physically make a box. Now you're going to be putting numbers in here, so you're going to want to make it fairly decent size. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of those polynomials and I'm going to write one term on the outside for each of the boxes. So for example, the 2x plus 3, I'll keep them in our colors. Here's 2x, and what's really important, again, include the sign. So each term from a polynomial gets to be on the outside of one box. So I'm going to take the other polynomial, x plus 5, and each term gets written on the outside. Okay? Now, what I've now created is 4 rectangles. And what I want to do is to figure out the area of each rectangle. So for the first box, the area is 2x times x, which gives me 2x squared. Okay? The next box on the top has an area of 2x by 5. So I'm just multiplying the width and the length to get the area. And that gives me a positive 10x. And then I go down to the second layer, and I'm going to multiply 3 times the x, because those are the dimensions of that particular rectangle, which gives me a positive 3x. And then I'm going to multiply the 3, positive 3, times the 5, which gives me an area of positive 15. Now, if we have no skipping exponents, which we didn't, they both each had exponent of 1, can you see where the like terms are? They're on a diagonal. So when I write out my answer, I'm going to do a 0z. Boom, boom, boom. So first comes the upper left, 2x squared. I combine my like terms on the diagonal for a positive 13x, and last is the 15. Okay. So bottom line is, I don't care how you solve these problems. You have to experience what strategy works for you. I have students who just distribute, and they're good with that. I have students that connecting sometimes it's too much, so they like to do columns. It's more compact. I have people that the only method they use is the matrix. And it's all up to you.
So we won't be like tested on each individual strategy?
No.
We just
No. It really it comes down to what works for you. Okay? So we give you all sorts of strategies, and some people like to practice all of them. Okay? Now, I will tell you, we may use the area model to help us when we go backwards and we factor. Okay, so that may be something that we'll try using. All right, so let's just do a couple practice problems. And again, all the directions are going to say is solve or find the product. In our particular book, I think it says find the product. So again, rules that we have to watch out for. We have to watch out for our signs. We have to watch out for our exponents. Remember the rule that when we're multiplying monomials, we add the exponents. So those are the key things. We're just practicing the same stuff from chapter 7 again, okay? So let's do, and again, all you have for homework tonight is binomial times binomial, okay? So x minus 2 times the quantity 3x plus 4. Solve it any way you want. So the answer is 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay. Now, I think as you become more proficient, people will naturally go into just distributing. Okay. That's just the way it is. As you are getting yourself used to it, a lot of people like the other methods until they start feeling comfortable, and then they'll go back to finally get to this because it is the fastest. It's very similar to doing the matrix, but it takes longer to set up. You don't have to set up this problem because it's already set up. You just solve it, right? And column you have to set up first and then do the math. All right, let's do another one. Let's give you something like 2y minus 7 times 3y plus 5. And the answer is 6y squared minus 11y minus 35. So what made this a little bit more complicated is both variables now had coefficients, so there's a little bit more math to be done. Okay? So homework tonight, 483, 1 through 6, 12 through 23. So tonight, again, focuses on binomials times binomials. Tomorrow, we're going to get larger.